Albert was a world-famous dowser from France who discovered hoards of coins, underground tunnels, secret crypts, all sorts of stuff. However, he was in France, and the laws over there don't allow you to dig willy-nilly, which was obviously frustrating for him. After I'd nagged him about trying to find the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, Solomon's Mines, or where Henry Avery buried his treasure, or where the Amber Room might be, he told me he was focused on finding Captain Kidd's treasure, which he'd narrowed down to Thailand area. So I said, let me know when you find it, and went back to my folder of good leads. And there was one guy in there who was looking for treasure at sea. His name was Terry, and he had a mega custom-made sailing boat with a load of treasure hunting kit on board. And he wanted to sail to the Indian Ocean to look for pirate treasure, which sounded mega. So I asked him if he needed a skivvy. And the next thing you know, I'm down in Penzance, Cornwall, pirate capital of the world. Terry and his first mate Pete were waiting for me. They were both expert sailors and spent their free time looking for sunken galleons. And they were waiting for permission to come through to go look in the Indian Ocean. So in the meantime, Terry gave me a crash course in boats.
I say, I'll put a position there, and that's our search box, and Pete goes that.
Showed me where they'd been, along with all their cool treasure hunting kit, stuff they'd seen on the seabed.
Yeah, look at that, number 2. It's going along that way. You're going to get a great long signal, aren't you?
And Terry used a chocolate cake to explain how his scanner worked. It was all mega exciting stuff, and they were bona fide treasure hunters. Pirates were on everyone's mind, and we wasted no time going searching. I had my new 360-degree camera, so I was ready to capture every angle of the gold bullion we'd find, whilst learning the ropes of boats.
Just chuck in here, right?
There are so many wrecks off the coast of the UK from over 5,000 years of boating history. The wrecks of these guys are literally just piled up on top of each other. Obviously the super old ones have disintegrated or been churned up by scallop dredgers, going over and over them, smashing them up and dragging them everywhere, which is a shame for all the wrecks and the scallops. There's a mega statistic that goes something like 33% of all ships that set sail between 1400 and 1900 from Europe were never heard from again. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of ships dotted all over the seafloor like nobody's business. Anyway, it was flat calm and nothing could go wrong. Pete put in the coordinates, and 25 miles later, in some of the calmest conditions imaginable, I got such bad seasick I spent the next 17 hours being sick in my bunk, only emerging once to get this sorry shot. Being seasick is honestly a fate worse than death. I lay in this bunk listening to Terry and Pete shout about how they thought they'd found treasure, and I literally couldn't have cared less. And I swore never to go on a boat ever again. Then, 2 months later, I was back on the boat because there was something mega going on.
Apparently, Will, I've got researching to do. I've done enough researching for today.
Terry and Pete had been into Redruth Museum in the archives, and they'd found a letter from the 1600s, supposedly written by the famous pirate Henry Avery, cryptically explaining that he'd hid loads of treasure on a local beach. And Terry and Pete were hot on the case, but the clues were vague, and there were a lot of beaches in the area, so they needed help. And I knew just the person, my friend from France, who could douse for water and gold. Terry and Pete weren't quite sure about it at first, but once they started listening to Albert's ideas, they thought he might be onto something. So he came to England to join the mission. However, he didn't speak any English, and nobody knew much French.
No, comme ça.
So Albert brought his son along to help translate. Terry had a background in law and was a very sensible character, but he was also very open-minded to new ideas. So we were all set.
Hey, good boots, Pete.
But before we could even get to the beach, Albert's rod picked up a strange signal up the cliff, so we followed it. Right to a thick bush. But it was mega thick.
Where is the gold?
So we tried to squeeze in behind it,
Whereabouts is it?
and Albert's rod started spinning like a nutter. So Pete got the metal detector out
Right, try that.
and started getting a signal.
This thing may have been causing the signal, this barbed wire.
But it was right by the barbed wire, and there was literally barbed wire all along the wall, making it impossible to search properly. So we went back to the beach. Not being able to speak the same language meant there was a lot of just standing and watching, which made it all the more interesting. Then Albert started pointing at a patch of sand, marking stuff out. Then he carried on a bit longer.
I don't know what he's doing now. He's double checking, I guess.
And did his double checking until he was totally confident.
There's something.
And, unbelievably, there was a massive signal there.
That's definitely strong.
With a mad treasure fever, it's very hard to keep things low profile.
If anybody asks you, just say we're doing an experiment on sea level rising. It's going mental.
But the day was cut short because the tide was too high. Everyone had a good laugh about the fruitless digging
Why don't you become a treasure hunter? Oh, you are!
and toasted locating the spot.
Salud. 90 centimetres.
Albert explained how close they were to it, and the next day, everyone was excited about hauling up the treasure. This time, they took a water pump from the boat to help get rid of the water. However, there was some confusion over finding the same spot as we were in the day before, and they didn't totally agree.
5 metres, and I had this fucking thing in line with that post. I think our hole is about here.
Which is a hell of a way over.
That wet, we weren't in that wet stuff yesterday. We were in dry stuff. We spent fucking 4 hours digging nothing in. Well, if he's convinced that it's over there, what the fuck were we doing yesterday?
Well, yeah.
You know, at least if we gone back to the right bloody place, I might have thought, well, fuck me, there's something in this.
Anyway, once they were all happy with the spot, they got back to digging. And the boat pump was on hand to deal with the water.
Up a bit.
But it didn't have enough gusto. So it was a bit sad and everyone went home. What we needed was some new tech. At the time I was doing some video work for a robotics lab in Leeds for a guy called Rob, who worked with Sean in the pyramids. He showed me all their mega robots that did all kinds of stuff. Crawl through holes, stomp about, see things, even fly to roads and repair cracks in the tarmac. So I told him about the beach problem and I asked if he could build a robot that could drive along the beach and dig down into the sand and locate buried treasure. He thought I was mad, but he did let me borrow an old scanner that he had lying around, which made cool noises. However, I didn't have a clue how to use it, so I gave it to Terry and he read the instructions. However, they couldn't work it properly either. When you've been down there enough times, you start to become part of the scenery, and no matter what you're doing, whether you're burying dead bodies, hiding arms, or drugs, you're just old news that nobody was interested in anymore, and word was going around that we had absolutely no chance. Sick of not having a decent metal detector, I asked Sean for advice, and he helped me build a custom mega powerful metal detector in my garage. I had literally no idea what I was doing, and he was teaching me totally over WhatsApp. I had to ask things like, is this copper wire? What is this? How do I turn this thing on? And he had the patience to deal with video messages like this.
That is 5 hours of work and it's too short. I'm going to have to bin it.
I've plugged it all in. I can definitely hear a whirring. It's not even making a sound now. And eventually, things started working. And I got super confident and started making tiny ones, massive ones, even ones I could put in my shoe. And then my dad started helping and made all kinds of things from walking sticks to over shoe detectors. And I was chomping at the bit to try the best one out.
What the fuck do these people have to come to this end of the beach for?
So 2 weeks later we were back down there in the pouring rain and it worked mega. Terry was impressed, but it didn't solve our digging issue.
Yeah, it's very rocky there.
Might be a treasure chest.
Could be.
Terry decided we needed more manpower that he liked to call hairy asses.
Well, who are these hairy asses? Where do they live? Devon, okay. And they're mates of yours? Yeah, okay.
So it was up to me to find willing diggers. Asking people to take a day off to do hard manual labour for free on a cold beach in the winter because someone used extrasensory skills to locate buried pirate treasure turned out to be a pretty hard sell. And the next time, I only managed to rope in one person, Jack, who was a legend, and he was ready to stop at nothing until we found something. And because I'd only bought one person, Terry said I had to help too. This time we had a channel for water to escape and a mega pump,
Not far off a meter.
which really got rid of water. And every now and then we tested it with my super reliable mega metal detector, which was buzzing like crazy. But then, total disaster struck.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's been there.
What is it? Yeah, but look,
It was a super old looking pole with barnacles all over it, and the signal had vanished. The pole turned out to be total junk.
Fucking hell, you just couldn't make it up, could you?
It's absolute ludicrous.
We'd shifted about 3 tons of sand for nothing, and then the lifeguard came and told us we had to fill in such a massive hole. So, totally demoralised, we had to fill the hole back in again. Terry told Albert the bad news, that we were giving up, and Albert replied, "There is 100% treasure on that beach." So a few months later, Albert was back with a friend and the pump. And despite a few minor issues,
Stop.
it was back to digging.
We're underwater because the tide is coming.
Terry explained that 300 years ago, when the treasure was buried, the sea level was lower, i.e., when the pirates buried it, the hole was away from the water, and they could have marked the treasure with a big rock. However, now the sea level is higher, it's very hard to dig.
That's the problem. Big problem.
Then Albert bought out a mega monster metal detector. Which really intrigued the crowds. But the trouble with a mega monster metal detector is that it goes mega monster deep.
4 meters.
Well, we can basically forget it.
And Albert said there was a big signal 4 meters down. And that was the end of the road. Now I understand why the ones you buy in the shop only go down 20 centimeters, because nobody in their right mind wants to dig down to China and back.
Necessary to have a big mechanic shower. If we know people which have an enterprise,
And then
you don't know here,
and then lose it on the beach.
come
So,
with,
I mean, that would have a hard time.
oh,
wouldn't it?
with a mechanic shower with.
The French guys wanted to get a huge digging machine, but the only things that were readily available in these neck of the woods was a pasty or an ice cream.
We're trying to find a solution.
Yes.
Maybe we get a digger, but you've got to get.
But we need a big digger, you know, because small digger is just going to fall.
Yeah,
We need a digger that can reach, you know,
Yes,
from.
yeah, a long way off.
Yes, exactly.
Getting on the beach in the summer with lots and lots of people
It's
around,
necessary to find
a very
an
quiet.
enterprise which one to. On n'a pas 36 solutions.
Then they got the pendulums out.
Ah, je sens là. Henry Avery is here.
La réaction là, j'ai jamais eu.
That started to spin like crazy when they were in the hole.
Yes, like this.
Everyone had a go, even Terry.
What do you do?
That's it, just like that.
And did you think?
And then,
Did you think?
yeah, you've got to think: is the gold underneath me?
Well, it's doing it.
Good.
Is this anything positive? Are we on the spot?
They considered every option,
I mean, the extreme is an archaeological dig.
Yeah, but then you've got the credibility issue. You take this to Essex archaeology, they'll laugh you out of court.
and there was one last-ditch thing to try.
I do enjoy work, I do enjoy it, but it's, I got so much at the minute.
It's an historically important thing, you know. It's something that we've been researching with our friends in France, or East France, and The other guy is from southwest France in Toulouse. They've got these magnetometers and things that. What a beautiful evening, isn't it?
Where he buried 3 chests or boxes full of treasure in the sands of the seashore.
And then I had to look twice to make sure I wasn't seeing things.
Can't do any more. It's your moment.
J'espère.
Fucking hell. Look at that.
Everyone watched on, nervously, keeping their eyes peeled for chests. Passers-by wanted to know what was happening.
It's a historical project. Archaeological.
Every rock looked like a chest, and Albert said, "Keep going."
Sorry? What does that mean?
It was amazing, really, the grit and determination on show.
He has to be getting close.
It went on long into the night, and despite all best efforts, it just couldn't go as deep as Albert wanted to go. It was a lesson for any beachgoer armed with a bucket and spade. You can't dig down 4 meters. In the end, we measured it, and we didn't even get down 3. But that night, something super weird happened as we were leaving. Now, I don't know what this means, but as I passed the beach cafe, the owner was there. And he said it was very strange that we were digging in that spot, because 20 years ago there was a storm that moved loads of sand, and in that exact spot he found an old cannon poking out of the sand. Maybe it was Avery's marker, maybe it wasn't. Either way, he showed me a photo of it. It was 5 foot long and dated to around the 1700s, which is super close to Avery's time. And while I was marvelling over its rusted glory, he went on to say, loads of coins had been found on this beach, especially around the spot we were looking, and some of them were gold and on display in Truro Museum. So that's pretty mega, but not mega enough to get me down on that beach again to do more digging. I'd had enough of it, so that was the end of that. So Albert went back to France, and when he got home, he did get a bit of good news. His published work on Captain Kidd's treasure, which he finally declared was on an island near Koh Samui, Thailand, spread like wildfire and was featured in newspapers and magazines around the world. This famous old Kidd map, which was found in an old sea chest from the 1920s, Albert deemed as Koh Wang Nok, Thailand. It only had one bloke living on it, the caretaker, called Tiger. And little did he know that Albert had analysed every millimetre of the island on Google Earth and wrote a whole book about his calculations, looking at the shape, the features, the hills, the markers, and shared all his findings with the world. And a few months later, Tiger noticed something weird. A boat appeared, and a tourist, and then more people turned up, asking questions about the treasure. Tiger had absolutely no idea what was going on, but he could smell there was an opportunity right under his nose. So he did what basically anyone would do in his place. He put on a pirate hat, set up a beach barbecue fish shack, and did treasure tours of the island and became a local celebrity. Tiger did go on to find strange marks and carvings on the rocks around the island, which need better photos and better analysis. And can I just say, I can't be trusted to interpret any of this stuff. I have rose-tinted glasses on all the time. When I look at an empty field, I see Romans burying hoards of treasure, and when I see a tree, I see a medieval peasant burying his life savings at the foot of it. But anyway, nobody could make much sense of the carvings on the rocks. Tiger didn't have a metal detector, so basically nobody has ever properly looked on Koh Wang Nok, mainly because the island is owned by some king or prince who aren't overly keen on granting permission for people to look for treasure. So that was an ongoing issue for Albert, and I went back to my folder of good leads to see who else was kicking around in there. Before I got lured into a cool looking email about finding lost Nazi gold, I got an email from Sean, and it was a good one. He was on another treasure hunt, looking for another solid gold object hidden somewhere in the UK, which could only mean one thing: that I was going to end up looking for it. In an attempt to grow my good leads folder, I thought I'd tag this bit on the end of the video. If anyone knows anyone with a good lead, email me at somegoodleads@gmail.com. Maybe someone knows something suspicious about a flaw in an old house, or a secret mysterious cave in the middle of nowhere, or maybe there's a weird rock poking out of someone's garden, or maybe someone's dropped a bucket of gold coins down a drain and needs help getting them out. Let me know. Also, I'm always on the lookout for people to help do stuff, maybe dig a hole, analyse some data, or research something mega interesting at home. Who knows? So, let me know if you know someone who might want to get involved. This is so turd set up. Okay, so that was the end of series 1. I reckon I've got about 5 more series in me with all this footage I've got from over the years. So I need to pull my pants up and get editing. And apparently I also need to say to subscribe to the channel, because then when I do upload anything new, people will see it. So click it now before this video ends, which will be super quick.